All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 5 Minutes of Math. This is Mr. Lunsford. The first thing I wanted to do was congratulate everybody who earned a perfect score of 100 on our last formative assessment. So thank you all. I am very proud of you. All right, so the question is, how do we solve an equation? The goal in solving any equation is to get that variable all by itself. All right, and our technique is to work from the outside in. You use inverse operations on both sides of the equation, and inverse is just a word that means opposite. So if you tie your shoe, when you put your foot into the shoe, the inverse is to untie it, to take your foot out of the shoe. We have a chart right here that says properties of equalities, and I gave you the chart and the source. But let's take a look at that chart. We have four properties that we're going to look at and kind of zero in on. That's the addition property, the subtraction property. Then we have the multiplication property of equality. And finally, we have the division property of equality. Now, instead of going through each one of these, I'm going to just teach you what they are through the example. So let's get started with number 12. All right, so in number 12, I have a chart here. It says, here's the goal to get the variable all by itself, and I'm going to give you the property right next to that. Okay, so we start out with 2h plus 9 equals 21. That's the beginning of our problem. First thing we have to do, since we're adding 9 to the 2h, we're going to subtract 9 from both sides. If we do it from one side, we have to do it to the other side. And that comes from the subtraction property of equality. As long as we're subtracting the same amount from both sides, it's the same equation. That leaves us with 2h equals 12. That's 21 minus 9. Now, down here, we have 2h divided by 2 equals 12 divided by 2. Where did the 2 come from? Because we're multiplying that h by 2, so we divide by 2. That's the inverse. And we have h equals to 6. That's 12 divided by 2. All right, let's go on to number 13. And again, here's our chart. So we're starting off with 11 equals 2b plus 17. And since that variable is multiplied by 2 and then we add 17, the first thing we have to do is subtract 17 from both sides. And that comes from the subtraction property of equality. As long as we subtract the same number from both sides, it remains a balanced equation. Now we're down to negative 6 equals 2 times b. Since we're multiplying b times 2, it's time to divide 2b by 2. All right? And since we're dividing the both sides of the equation by the same number, we still have a balanced equation. That's the division property of equality. Negative 3 equals b. Now we found out what b actually is. And we use the same approach for number 14. All right, so here's our goal. Get the variable all by itself. And we have 5 equals 4a minus 7. So the very first thing that we're going to do is to add 7 to both sides. Now, we don't subtract 7, we add 7 because we want that minus 7 to cancel out. That's the addition property of equality this time. As long as we're adding the same number to both the right and left sides of an equation, you get a balanced equation. So this negative 7 plus 7, they both cancel out. We have 12 equals 4 times a. And since we're multiplying a by 4, we have to divide 4a by 4. And that's the division property of equality. We divide both sides by 4. We find out 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 3 is our value for a. All right. So thanks again for listening, and I will see you all in a little while.